Hello students! Before I reveal the principle that will boost your game, I would like you to take a look at the position in front of us. At the moment, white's king is safe and black has no advantage on the king side. However, white is pressing on the left side of the board. You could observe a huge space advantage there for white's pieces, which is manifesting as more advanced pawns, and therefore white's pieces have more mobility and activity on the left side of the board. If they want to further increase their advantage, creation of a weakness or a pass pawn is needed, or else we won't make any progress. I would like you to pause the video and try creating a plan here for the white pieces, and also letting me know what would be your move that you would try here with the white pieces. So the key in this position is breaking the opponent's pawn chain, and pretty much the only plan that works is attacking the base of the pawn chain. That is the key principle. If you want to destroy the pawn chain, and if you can in that position, you should be aiming for the base of the pawn chain. Instead, one of the most common answers that I hear in this position is taking on d6, and that would be a big mistake. There is such tool in our toolbox where we're taking in order to define a weak pawn, but usually then we have more pieces coming in to attack that pawn, and the quantity of the pieces that are coming to attack it overwhelms the opponent, as we could win subsequently that pawn on d6, which is not the case over here. Even if black played poorly defensive, they have plenty of resources in order to come and protect d6. Opening up the c file also is not giving us any counterplay. When we want to break the pawn chains, the best strategy, which again doesn't work all the time, but it works majority of the times, is to attack the base of the pawn chain. So the key principle here is to try and hit that c7 pawn, after which we'll be able to break the opponent's pawn chain. If we don't do it right now, black will just play bishop to b5 and prevent us from pushing the pawn. After we play b5, it is very important that we have this pressure on the e5 pawn. That means that if they're taking on c5, we could be taking on e5 with damaging the opponent pawn structure, attacking the vulnerable pawn on c7, as well as there might be ideas of simply moving back at some point and pushing the e pawn further. What happened in the game? Grandmaster decided to play h4, hitting our bishop. Bishop f2 was played, and once again, if they take on c5, we could simply take on e5. Now we're attacking the queen and the pawn, and if they take, there is a double attack at the end where knight is hitting the bishop and bishop is hitting the pawn. So in the game, instead of taking on c5, black played bishop g7, and finally you could see the power of breaking the opponent's pawn chain by attacking the base of it. Here, the best principle that I could give you, or rather a pro tip, is that usually we're taking the opposite way compared to how our opponent is taking. So if they were to take on b6, we're going to be taking on d6 over here and subsequently collecting the b pawns after this. In the game, they took on c5, and so we're taking on c7, and we're acquiring a very harsh, for our opponent, pass pawn on the 7th rank. In the game, b5 was played, pony moved where it supports the queen move, c8 queen, and after c4, white calculated a concrete line where the queen could be going to the b8 square, and they played takes on c4, takes on d7, and after queen b8, white promoted the c pawn and won the game. Now let's apply this in a very common but much simpler example in order to get internalized what we learned today. So let's imagine we're playing against d4 and say that's queen's gambit declined, and our opponent makes a mistake. They're playing very early c5. We're going to be playing b6, after which of course it's not good for them to take because they lose the c5 pawn or the c pawn for our a pawn. Our rook gets into the game, plus we're going to hit them with c5. So they're going to be playing b4, after which we're going to play a5. And here, they're not able to extend the pawn chain with the move pawn to a3 as the rook on the a file is pinned. So usually this whole structure is played when this bishop is outside. For example, if the bishop was already on f4, white could play a3, and there would be no way how black could destroy base of the pawn chain, and therefore the structure here wouldn't be collapsing for the white pieces. Instead, over here, these are not connected, and white has to make a choice. And one of the common ways how they're playing from position like this is taking on a5. After which, you have to remember that you do not want to take the same way, but rather take the opposite way. And then you will be able to collect this pawn later on, be a pawn up, and in general developing the initiative. And white's pawn chain, which looked so strong, has been destroyed. Hope you will implement this into your games and will have much more successful time attacking the pawn chains of your opponent. Best of luck. Consider hiring me as your personal online chess coach. My contacts are on the right. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next lesson.